Men of Reddit, what's the creepiest thing a woman has ever said to you? I bartended at a small dive bar years ago. It was late one night, and I had a lone female guest. She was probably middle-aged, polite and short, while ordering her drink. I thought nothing strange, or got no red flags, so I continued my closing duty, sweeping around the tables in particular, not behind the bar. I'm focused on cleaning and getting out of there, and I turn around to dump dustpan, and she's standing right behind me staring me dead in the eye. "Will you dance with me?" she asks in a slow, nervous manner. For the record, there is no music playing, and we're the only two living creatures in the building. I tell politely that I'm closing and cannot right now, and quickly put distance and walk behind the bar. In the 5 seconds I have to walk through the kitchen, this guest has walked back to her stool and begun hysterically crying at the top of her lungs. She asks me if I think she's ugly, fat, unattractive, a whore, and several more derogatory things which I deny and deflect. She screams and tells me she hates me and runs out of the bar. I wring the beer she drank half of up as a waste and lock the door. I continued to work there for 7 more years and never saw this guest again. That, my friend, was a ghost. She told me she would rather kill me and then herself than see me with someone else. So since you're still alive, how long y'all been together? Now, please send help. /s I haven't spoken to her in years actually, but I'll admit I stayed in that relationship way longer than I should have. Glad you're out and also alive. For now. Mine is so harmless in comparison to a lot of these, but was stoned and hooking up with this girl. We are foreplaying, and she's sitting cowgirl kissing my neck until I'm digging it. Suddenly she's like licking and slurping my neck and chest. She sits up, moves her face an inch from mine to stare into my eyes and says, "Where did you get your skin? It's delicious." I was so high I could only reply, "My parents." Bro, I would say the same thing in your shoes. As a child, 10y. Oh. Closed bracket comma. My then stepmom requested some specific candy bar from my trick-or-treating hall. When I refused, she casually said, "I'll rape you for it." I had only a vague idea what the word meant, but it sounded like bad news. Bonus. Same individual performed a tactile inspection of my downstairs when I tried on a new bathing suit to ensure that my package was alright. You told your dad, right? I did not. For a few reasons. My father is strangely stern sometimes, but in very unpredictable ways, the way that alcoholics with underlying issues tend to be. In addition, he was married to this woman, and I wasn't sure whether I'd be taken seriously. Avoiding a negative reaction from him kept me quiet, and I didn't fully understand how weird it was until later. Edit. Dropped a word. I had a similar upbringing with my mum and stepdad. I was never sexually abused, but emotional and physical abuse were not irregular. Sometimes I bring up funny stories from my childhood and instantly see it from an adult's perspective, and I'm kind of horrified for child me. Definitely. Trusted adults always do what's best. No. Yeah. No. I want to have sex with you, and I want my husband to come in the room to catch us having sex and you ending up fighting him. Actual cave woman. Ooga booga fight for my amusement. A few years ago I started hanging out with this girl who was around my friend group at the time and came to trivia nights with us occasionally. Things were going well at first, but then I started noticing some odd signs. She never slept. She would do bizarre things like start her shower, then go start cooking food, then sit down and begin tending her plants, as if she kept forgetting what task she was doing. She put a sign out on her lawn with her cell phone number on it wanting to connect with strangers. It got weirder as it went on. I mentioned to her once that I liked thunderstorms, and she became convinced that I could cause thunderstorms. At first I thought she was joking, but it started to weird me out. Then one night, when I was sleeping over, I noticed that she was just sitting in bed watching me. She put her hand on my heart and whispered that she could hear the beautiful fishes in my blood that very morning. Her father burst into her apartment yelling about her appointment with the psychiatrist that she kept avoiding. She told me that her parents and the doctors were trying to convince her that she had bipolar disorder and wanted to shut her brain off. Long story short, her friends and family convinced her to go. She bravely took on her mental illness and got help before the manic episode got out of control. And now we are very close friends to this day. That went from creepy to wholesome. Yeah, damn right. Fuck. Bipolar? I thought I heard of some schizophrenia in there. I got the mania right away with the phone number thing. It made me think of the time I was leaving the airport in Antigua, and I was super manic at that time for some reason, and just in the most good-natured of moods, and was befriending people in the line, and giving them my phone number saying, if they ever needed help in America, or were visiting America at any point to just give me a call. Still cringe over it. A complete and total stranger walked over to me and said, I need you to rearrange my guts with your cock. She pointed at the men's bathroom and then walked over and into it while I left. This woman had 20 years at least on everyone in that place, and the best way for me to describe how she looked is to say half crushed beer can. Apostrophe. She pointed at the men's bathroom and then walked over and into it. It's horrible that she said that and all, but I do love the idea of her just standing next to a urinal waiting impatiently. My friend was a bouncer at a very fancy cocktail lounge in Soho, New York City. There was a woman who would come in occasionally, head straight for the men's bathroom, walk in, lock the door, and offer to F whoever was in there. She was very attractive and very weird. Some men took her up on it, others freaked out and got the manager. She had to kicked out repeatedly. That's disgusting. You should tell us which cocktail lounge so we can avoid the bathroom. There's so many of them. Which one? At a bar, a woman a good 20 years older than me walked up from behind me, ran her hands through my hair, and said, I'm a dominatrix. Sorry, I'm more of an Autobot person. Seximus Prime. I want to have your ADHD infested children. Are you ADHD infested? I have tested positive. Well, you can't possibly have AD if you ever got good grades on a test. Psychiatrist who shouldn't be. It took me until this comment to realize I wasn't reading the word AIDS. A woman I matched with on Tinder told me that she likes to kill animals and then asked to meet me in the middle of the woods. I figured that might be a red flag, so unmatched and never went back to Tinder. Swiped left so hard Tinder uninstalled. Slapped that app right off his phone. She held up a banana and asked if my pee was the same size. In the middle of a dinner rush, as loud as can be, in front of about 5 customers and everyone on shift that night. And this was after she groped my brother's ass. Somehow she didn't get fired for this, and I still resent my former boss for not being more attentive. Had a similar situation happen in an office job as the only guy. Chick I already told I wasn't interested randomly says we should go to a nude beach. I'd like to see your body in the sun. Loud F in front of everyone including my boss. The other girls roasted her a bit, and I told management it needed to stop. It did not. I quit shortly after. Still mad at management for ignoring obvious harassment they witnessed. Do you want to stick it in my sticky pussy? I was still a virgin and this question did not convince me to stick it anywhere for a while. LMAO, was she my neighbor? I used to have these crackhead neighbors that would get in crazy loud public arguments, and one night we were in bed, and all we hear from the apartment below us is him screaming, I am so sick and tired of your squeaky stinky pussy. We weren't even mad. We couldn't stop laughing. Squeaky is a descriptive word I've never heard used to describe that often described place. Will you sleep with me if I drug and stab you? It'll be Funi was waiting for my bus at 6 AM. I'll sleep with you if you promise not to do those things. What if it's just a little poke? On a scale of thumbtack to Darth Maul, what is your depth ratio of blade to intercourse? r/brand sentence. I had a gal tell me she was gonna follow me home and fuck the dog s out of me whether I wanted it or not. For context, I was living in the Bronx at the time. I heard s like that all the time. That went from scary to get out to here ya little rascal when you said Bronx. Right? I was 17 when I moved there, and I learned real quick to just let it roll off. In this case I think I said something like not today or not. Baddest response, she would have moved on something different. I worked at a caviar bar in SF, and it was basically cougar bait. One time this relatively older lady said, you look just like my son. You should come home with me. B should not follow from A. I was sleeping with a woman in her 40s in my mid 20s. One day after sex she looked me deeply in the eye and said, wow, You really remind me of my son with a big smile on her face and leaned in for a kiss. It was a last date. I can go one step further. I was in a similar situation. I was 24. She was 38. And she had a son named Dylan who was 20. During sex, she moaned, "Oh, Dilly." I immediately stopped and was like, "What the fuck?" She swore to high heaven that I was mistaken, and she really moaned my name. Our names weren't similar, but maybe I misheard. She was very convincing. It happened again a couple days later, and I was done. Walked away and never looked back. I really think she was hardcore fantasizing about her son. I just looked her up on Facebook. It's been 20 plus years now. Still appears to be single. So is her son. He lives at home with her. Their photos together don't look creepy. But I dunno. That was just too weird. In that situation, how hard would a "yes, mommy" have impacted? Voice activated gorilla grip. If you didn't have the ring on you, I would have raped you. So raping a single guy is totally fine. She draws the line at raping married man. Professionals have standards. Be polite. Be efficient. Drunk woman with an older lady nearby sat down next to me on a bench and looked at me. "I'll F you if you can beat up my mom over there. Tell me more. Tell me more. Did she put up a fight? Tell me more. Tell me more. Was it love at first sight? Tell me more. Tell me more. Could she get me a friend?" I'm like really submissive. Like I'll let a guy s in my mouth once, and I didn't even like him that much. For context, it was a second and last date. Well, slapsney, this was a fun date, but ITA getting really late and I have this thing tomorrow her, but our foods hasn't come yet. Ya had her okay, catch ya later finger guns. Bet she didn't even order food. I'll have what he's having. AskReddit. Woke up to more inbox notifications than I've ever seen before. And now my top Reddit comment is about scat. I don't think I'm ever going to top this. Remember to be curious and include your geographic location when asking for critter IDs. I regret reading that. I worked at a fast food place years ago. My girlfriend came in for a milkshake and was waiting at the end of the counter with one of our regulars, Doris. The regular was near 90 years old and had invited me home to have pot roast at her house multiple times. I was being a pain and put about a foot of whipped cream over the top of the lid of my GF's milkshake and brought it to her. Doris looked at her, then looked at me deadpan and said, "I wish you'd cream me like that." Doris never ordered desserts. Edit. Added a much needed space. I just imagined the female version of Herbert from Family Guy Mayo. It's just Herbert, but with lipstick. As a physical therapist, fresh out of PT school, I was tasked with massaging the piriformis muscle of a 40-something woman who was in town on business. For those of you who don't know, the piriformis is located in the area of the butt, so it was already dicey. She was wearing a skirt and a thong underneath. As I was massaging, she began verbally directing me, "Lower, to the right, lower, right some more." It's essentially verbally moving my hands to her anus. As I was getting closer, I was also getting more uncomfortable. Finally I said, "This isn't where your piriformis muscle is." She basically proceeded to tell me I was incompetent and that she has had this done many times, and I was the one that didn't know where the piriformis was. Then she threatened that she was friends with the owner, and if I didn't massage where she wanted, she was going to complain. I told her that was okay, and I didn't feel comfortable touching the area she was wanting me to massage, and I left the room. She left, and nobody ever mentioned it to me, and I never saw her again. Edit. I just remembered this bit. This was back in 2005, so nobody had smartphones yet, but she had a BlackBerry, and the whole time this was happening she was texting/emailing somebody on her BlackBerry, which made the whole encounter that much more bizarre. You handled that very well, I'd say. I was 14, she was 16. Just started talking due to our mutual friends were dating. After a week she drops, "I got a bun in the oven, and you can be the father." Hung up the phone and never spoke to her again. Edit. I was obviously not the father after only talking to the chick for a week. What W convincing argument. I hate to tell you this, but Elle had to have an abortion, and it was yours. We never did more than kiss. I mean, I'm a pretty solid kisser, but not that good. I had a lady friend who was adamant she was pregnant with my child. I pulled her dad aside and explained what she had told me, expecting a lashing, and how I'm gonna pay for this kid. He calmly goes, "She does this with everyone who wants to leave her. Just walk away and have a good life." 100% wish he was my dad. Cooler dude with a rest daughter. Holy fuck. That's a crazy bullet to have dodged. Thanks pops. My parents tried setting me up with one of their friend's daughter, but we lived too far apart, so no go. I met her dad at another wedding years later. He told me I'm better off without her. She's kind of a bitch. Hate it when good fathers-in-law get away. That I was so cute she wanted to beat me. Was her name Louise? He's so gorgeous. I just wanna slap his hideous beautiful face. Slightly off topic, but this experience comes to mind reading this. This weekend at Velt Music Festival in Toronto, I was actually aggressively approached. A girl had grabbed my arm as my friend and I were walking by. As I tried to pull away, she looked me dead in the eye and said nothing. I said, "Sorry, I'm in a hurry to the bathroom. Can't talk." She then proceeded to touch my stomach and tried to get a handful of my package. Throughout all this, she said nothing. Scared the S out Tammy. That's terrifying. I'm so sorry. I'm especially sorry that people are making a joke out of you being sexually assaulted. Had an ex who routinely threatened to cut it off. Any chance she got, she would have her hands on it and sometimes would say things like, "If you ever cheat on me, I'll cut you D off, and if I could cut it off and keep it in a jar, I wouldn't need you anymore." I would wake up with her holding onto it while looking at me. Crazy AF, but yeah, hate to break it to you, but with that happening multiple times, you should have been away much quicker. He was scared how she'd react. Probably by cutting his D off. Or at least twist it.